It was not long after this outward sign of his authority and his mission that he began to experience powerful inward signs, in addition to those of which he had already been conscious. When asked about these, he spoke of true visions, which came to him in his sleep, and he said that they were like the breaking of the light of dawn. The immediate result of these visions was that solitude became dear to him, and he would go for spiritual retreats to a cave on Mount Hira, not far from the outskirts of Mecca. Ramadan was the traditional month of retreat, and it was one night towards the end of Ramadan, in his 40th year, when he was alone in the cave, that there came to him an angel in the form of a man. The angel said to him, "Recite." And he said, "I am not a reciter," whereupon, as he himself told it, the angel took me and whelmed me in his embrace until he had reached the limit of mine endurance. Then he released me and said, "Recite." I said, "I am not a reciter." And again he took me and whelmed me in his embrace, and again, when he had reached the limit of mine endurance, he released me and said, "Recite." And again I said, "I am not a reciter." Then a third time he whelmed me as before, then released me and said, "Recite in the name of thy Lord who created. He createth man from a clot of blood. Recite. And thy Lord is the most bountiful. He who hath taught by the pen, taught man what he knew not." He recited these words after the angel, who thereupon left him. And he said, "It was as though the words were written on my heart." But he feared that this might mean he had become a jinn-inspired poet, or a man possessed. So he fled from the cave, and when he was halfway down the slope of the mountain, he heard a voice above him saying, "O Muhammad, thou art the messenger of God, and I am Gabriel." He raised his eyes heavenwards, and there was his visitant, still recognizable, but now clearly an angel, filling the whole horizon. And again he said, "O Muhammad, thou art the messenger of God, and I am Gabriel." The prophet stood gazing at the angel. Then he turned away from him, but whichever way he looked, the angel was always there, astride the horizon, whether it was to the north, to the south, to the east, or to the west. Finally the angel turned away, and the prophet descended the slope and went to his house. Cover me," he said to Khadijah, as, with still quaking heart, he laid himself on his couch. Alarmed, yet not daring to question him, she quickly brought a cloak and spread it over him. But when the intensity of his awe had abated, he told her what he had seen and heard. And having spoken to him words of reassurance, she went to tell her cousin Waraka, who was now an old man and blind. "Holy, holy," he said, "by him in whose hand is the soul of Waraka, there hath come unto Muhammad the angel of revelation, even he that would come unto Moses. Verily, Muhammad is the prophet of this people. Bid him rest assured." So Khadijah went home and repeated these words to the prophet, who now returned in peace of mind to the cave, that he might fulfill the number of days he had dedicated to God for his retreat. When this was completed, he went straight to the Kaaba, according to his wont, and performed the rite of the rounds, after which he greeted the old and the blind Waraka, whom he had noticed amongst those who were sitting in the mosque. And Waraka said to him, "Tell me, O son of my brother, what thou hast seen and heard." The prophet told him, and the old man said again what he had said to Khadijah. But this time he added, "Thou wilt be called a liar and ill-treated, and they will cast thee out and make war upon thee. And if I live to see that day, God knoweth I will help his cause." Then he leaned towards him and kissed his forehead, and the prophet returned to his home. The reassurances of Khadijah and Waraka were followed by a reassurance from heaven in the form of a second revelation. The manner of its coming is not recorded, but when asked how revelation came to him, the prophet mentioned 2 ways. "Sometimes it cometh unto me like the reverberations of a bell, and that is the hardest upon me. The reverberations abate when I am aware of their message. And sometimes the angel taketh the form of a man and speaketh unto me, and I am aware of what he saith." The revelation, this second time, began with a single letter, the earliest instance of those cryptic letters with which several of the Quranic messages begin. The letter was followed by a divine oath, sworn by the pen which had already been mentioned in the first revelation as the primary means of God's teaching men his wisdom. When questioned about the pen, the prophet said, "The first thing God created was the pen. He created the tablet and said to the pen, 'Write.' And the pen answered, 'What shall I write?' He said, 'Write my knowledge of my creation till the day of resurrection.' Then the pen traced what had been ordained. The oath, by the pen, is followed by a second oath, by that which they write. And amongst what they, that is the angels, write in heaven with lesser pens on lesser tablets, is the Quran's celestial archetype, which subsequent revelations refer to as a glorious recitation, Quran, on an inviolable tablet, and as the mother of the book. The 2 oaths are followed by the divine reassurance, Nun. By the pen, and by that which they write, no madman art thou, through the grace of thy Lord unto thee, and thine shall be a meed unfailing, and verily of an immense magnitude is thy nature." After the first messages had come, there was a period of silence, until the prophet began to fear that he had incurred in some way the displeasure of heaven, though Khadijah continually told him that this was not possible. Then, at last, the silence was broken, and there came a further reassurance, and with it the first command directly related to his mission. "By the morning brightness, and by the night when it is still, thy Lord hath not forsaken thee, nor doth he hate thee, and the last shall be better for thee than the first, and thy Lord shall give and give unto thee, and thou shalt be satisfied. Hath he not found thee an orphan and sheltered thee, and found thee astray and guided thee, and found thee needy and enriched thee? So for the orphan, oppress him not, and for the beggar, repel him not, and for the bountiful grace of thy Lord, proclaim it." In accordance with these last 2 words, he now began to speak about the angel and the revelations to those who, after his wife, were the nearest and dearest to him. As yet he had no demands to make upon them, except that they should not divulge his secret. But this situation did not last long. Gabriel came to him one day on the high ground above Mecca, and struck with his heel the turf of the hillside, whereupon a spring gushed forth from it. Then he performed the ritual ablution, to show the prophet how to purify himself for worship, and the prophet followed his example. Then he showed him the postures and movements of the prayer, the standing, the inclining, the prostrating, and the sitting, with the repeated magnification, that is, the words, Allahu Akbar, God is most great, and the final greeting, Assalamu alaikum, peace be on you, and again the prophet followed his example. Then the angel left him, and the prophet returned to his house, and taught Khadijah all that he had learnt, and they prayed together. The religion was now established on the basis of the ritual purification and prayer, and after Khadijah, the first to embrace it were Ali and Zayd, and the Prophet's friend Abu Bakr of the clan of Taym. Ali was only 10 years old, and Zayd had as yet no influence in Mecca, but Abu Bakr was liked and respected, for he was a man of wide knowledge, easy manners, and an agreeable presence. Many would come to consult him about this or that, and he now began to confide in all those whom he felt he could trust, urging them to follow the Prophet. Many responses took place through him, and two of the earliest to respond to the call were a man of Zuhra, Abdu Amr, the son of Auf, a distant kinsman of the Prophet's mother, and Abu Ubaidah, the son of Al-Jarrah, of the Bani al-Harith. The first adherents of the new religion took the commands addressed to the Prophet as applying to themselves, so, like him, they would keep long vigils. As to the ritual prayer, they were now careful not only to perform the ablution in preparation for it, but also to make sure that their garments were free from all defilement. And they were quick to learn by heart all that had been revealed of the Quran, so that they might chant it as part of their worship. The revelations now began to come more copiously. They were immediately transmitted by the Prophet to those who were with him, then passed from mouth to mouth, memorized and recited, a long and rapidly increasing litany which told of the ephemeral nature of all earthly things, of death, and of the certainty of the resurrection and the last judgment, followed by hell or paradise. But above all, it told of the glory of God, of his indivisible oneness, his truth, wisdom, goodness, mercy, bounty, and power. And by extension it continually referred to his signs, the marvels of nature, and to their harmonious working together, which testified so eloquently to the oneness of their sole originator. Harmony is the imprint of oneness upon multiplicity, and the Quran draws attention to that harmony as a theme for man's meditation. When uninhibited by the presence of hostile disbelievers, the believers greeted each other with the words given to the Prophet by Gabriel as the greeting of the people of paradise, "Peace be on you," to which the answer is, "And on you be peace," the plural being used to include the two guardian angels of the person greeted. The revealed verses of consecration and of thanksgiving also played an increasingly significant part in their lives and their outlook. The Quran insists on the need for gratitude, and the sacrament of thanksgiving is to say, "Praise be to God, the Lord of the worlds," whereas that of consecration or dedication is to say, "In the name of God, the infinitely good, the all-merciful." And following the example of the Prophet, they used it to inaugurate every Quranic recital, and by extension every other rite, and by further extension every act or initiative. The new religion admitted of nothing profane.